still a trophy to try and win.
Miller, David with the run. Jonathan David inside, gets there, Jonathan David!
With new faces on the team, how will John Herdman attack this competition? It all starts tonight against Guadeloupe on One Soccer.
Just a little over a week after Canada was knocked out of the Concacaf Nations League final by their arch rival, Les Rouges are back in action as the 2023 Gold Cup has rolled around, and they begin the tournament right here in Toronto. As we say, welcome inside BMO Field. It is Adam Jenkins and the voice, the conscience of Canadian soccer. That is, of course, my friend Christian Jack. A little bit different for you, from Las Vegas, Nevada, where you were inside the dome.
Pretty hot here.
We've seen every season today, from the hail, the pouring rain, and now the sun. But KJ, when you think about what all has transpired since that Nations League final, and I think the reaction that you offered, that the Canadian supporters offered after that game, showed how far we've come, but how far there still is to go. Now that they're back in the hunt for another trophy, how important is success, however you quantify that, in this Gold Cup?
Yeah, well, look, first of all, it's a real opportunity, no? I think whenever in the international game you lose a final, you know, rare is that moment to go back again and compete for one, right? And compete for a trophy. Yet CONCACAF with this schedule has allowed that. It shows to the growth of what CONCACAF is doing. You know, we get Guadeloupe here. The CONCACAF has allowed Canada to have a game at home, another special present that Canada can take advantage of playing in front of their own fans. So there's a lot of positivities tonight, Adam, but ultimately, you alluded to it, the end goal needs to be the trophy. You know, they still believe that they can win trophies in this region. They should. There's been some changes, particularly to the US roster since the Nations League final, so and Canada's, but there's an opportunity there to win this trophy, no doubt.
We're going to talk about 11s, we're going to talk about lineups, and there's a lot of meat on that bone, but thinking of the turnover, and KJ, John never hid his plan that there was not going to be a lot of players from the quote-unquote A team available for this campaign. So they bring in some newcomers, some players who can get opportunities here. How does John try to balance that turnover while still trying to field a team that can win this tournament?
Well, I think it's a great opportunity to start to integrate some of those players, right? You know, you've gone through a World Cup cycle, and you've still got players here like Steven Vittoria and others that I think will be obviously coming towards the end of their cycle. Milan Boyan's another one. So you use those experience to bring in the younger players, and there's 9 of them who weren't in the Nations League, and there's 3 of them who get their debuts tonight, to know that one day what it was like to play with players who made it to the World Cup, who were able to guide that team through, to be those important leaders within that dressing room. So it's a balancing act between the two. There's a lot of excitement on this roster when you look at the new players there, and I think that speaks to Canada's depth now, that they're able to tap into those players, some Major League Soccer players, some players from elsewhere as well, and give them an opportunity. So look, you know, there's no Davies here, right? There's no David, there's no Laren, there's no Eustaquio Johnston and others. But that's international football, Adam. You've got to take your opportunity when you get it. And there's some players out there today who are very, very excited, very keen, and you can see, you know, that they'll be looking over this moment as being their big moment to shine in front of, you know, with a Canada shirt on. And
there's going to be some players, KJ, who are going to make their very first cap for this country in their country, which is always a rarity. We'll be back more with the starting 11 and more team news. But for right now, let's head back into the studio with Andy Petrillo and company.
Thank you so much, Adam Jenkins. Yes, I'm alongside Jimmy Brennan and Jordan Wilson. And when you talk about lineup changes, we know that Stefan Eustaquio and Sam Adekubi were named to this roster. They have since left. John Herdman talking about Eustaquio never really fully getting time off after his mom passed away in the springtime, and same with Adekubi, who also needed some rest and dealt a lot with that earthquake in Turkey, losing a friend as well. So he has said, you know what, you guys need the rest, which is what a lot of these other players, which is why you're not seeing them at this Gold Cup, are getting. This team has been through a lot, Jimmy, but most recently the biggest tournaments, of course, World Cup, and now coming off Nations League final. Do you think the perception of this team has changed based on the results from those 2 big tournaments?
I don't think it has really. I mean, look, the World Cup was great. It was a wonderful achievement to get to. Did they do as well as they wanted to? Probably no. We went to a final with the Nations League. We wanted to win that, but we didn't win it. Now we're coming to a Gold Cup right now, and obviously we're missing our big hitters, but this is an opportunity as well for all these young guys coming in now to finally represent Canada, wear that national team jersey, and make a name for themselves. So this is a great opportunity for them, and obviously their goal still is, and they think that they still can go on and win this tournament.
So what are then the realistic expectations here at this Gold Cup?
Absolutely make it out of the group. Let's start with that. And I think to go deep in this tournament, I think getting past the quarterfinals, semifinals, but playing the last games, whatever that looks like. That could be a semifinal knockout, and if you lose to maybe a better side or you don't show up on the day, I can live with that. But I think it's progress with this Canadian team. This is the golden generation. This is the players that we have that are coming in. Even today, getting their first cap are quality players. I want to see this team show the world, show Gold Cup, show Concacaf what they can do.
Before we get to the starting 11, let's hear from John Herdman, who spoke about the new faces on this squad.
John, with the Nations League final only being on Sunday, is the quick turnaround here possibly the best thing for this group to get back and reimpose Canada, new Canada, as the team likes to say?
Well, this is a new Canada for sure. I think the team that had a crack at the Nations League final, a lot of those players are in recovery now, getting ready for their new seasons. So that's opened up a wonderful opportunity for a mix of veterans, new faces, and as a coach, you're in a position now where you can't put those typical guys, the names on the list, and you've got to give people opportunity. So I think all of us are excited to see what some of these new faces can do for our country and hopefully build that depth to our roster and springboard their careers.
All right, so here's a look at the starting 11 for Canada. Yeah, there are a lot of new faces, but we're seeing some very familiar ones getting the start. In the back, Milan Borjan, Kamal Miller, Stephen Vittoria. You're going to be seeing guys as well up front of Lucas Cavallini. But we do have Ali Ahmed. We know his great story in the Canadian Championship. It's so great to see him back there at the Vancouver Whitecaps and getting the start here. So let's talk a little bit more about this starting 11 as we head back inside BMO Field with Adam Jenkins and Christian Jack.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. Obviously, Ali Ahmed is going to be a big talking point for this Canadian men's national team. KJ, his first match back in general since that terrifying concussion that he suffered against Pacific. And it's interesting, too, how John has decided on what type of veteran players are going to stay in the team, what type of newcomers are going to go into the team in terms of their position. Obviously, Ahmed's one to highlight, but he's certainly not the only one.
Yeah, with Bombito McGraw coming in at the back, obviously opportunities for growth there. Canada needs more international quality defenders. But Ali Ahmed's a great one to focus on, Adam. I think you're bang on. Look, you know, what I like about this player is, first of all, when you pick a player from club football, you want them to come in a good place mentally. And I know he had that difficult injury, but the Whitecaps are flying right now. Yes. You know, every credit to Sartini and Vanni Sartini and what they've done there. So he's coming from a good environment. Technically, he's got a lot to offer. He's good with 2 feet. He's athletic. He covers a lot of ground. And today in midfield, he's going to have a lot of room to combine with teams, with Osorio in there, and have a lot of possession against his Guadeloupe team. As I said, he glides away from defenders really well for me. He keeps his head up. He's a very confident footballer. So I like his inclusion in this team. And as I said, he's a great kid as well. You know, I got to know him pretty well. You got a good character there, and that's what you want as you move forward to create competition in these spots for Canada.
And on the other side of the equation, of course, are the veterans. And you think of some of the players that stayed with this team, the ones that aren't making the big money moves, or the ones that maybe aren't necessarily playing the regular first team minutes and have that little bit extra offer. But when you think of a player like Junior Hoylett, not only is he going to be required to have a presence out there, but he's going to be one of the men who take these young guys under their arm and say, this is how you be a regular pro for John Herdman.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know, I think this is Junior Hoylett's tournament, and for a lot of reasons. He's starting to get fit again. He missed 7 or 8 weeks. It wasn't ideal. Reading got relegated, but he's a little fresher coming into the summer. Only played 16 minutes Nations League. So look, he, I think, has adapted really well to this new style of Canadian attackers. When you've got Alphonso Davies and Jonathan David and Kyle Laren and others, it's hard to get minutes. But he's never complained. He's a proper leader. I still think he's got the best shot for Canada in terms of power. But now he gets the opportunity to play regular minutes. And he's still looking for a potential contract. I know he's always eyeing MLS and North America, so why not show what you can do on the major scene when you've got a chance like this? It might be his last chance at a major tournament to get regular minutes as a starting player for Canada.
Well, obviously he's going to have an impact, but Andy, when you think about the other players involved in this roster and the fact that they're starting at home against this side in Guadeloupe that has beat them in the Gold Cup before, John Herdman knows he can't take anything for granted, and those veterans will be huge today.
True. The past is the past, though. Let's talk about the president and the players that are going to try and start this new path for Canada once again, trying to achieve their first trophy in 23 years. Let's continue dissecting this starting 11 brought to you by GE. Let's start with Zach McGraw, whose mother is 100% Canadian. That's why he is now representing Canada. What do you think he brings?
I think he's a towering presence in the back. He's 6'4". He's a big man on set pieces. He's fantastic. And I think we need that. We missed that a bit more aggression in that center back position. We've talked about it numerous times where we need those individuals. And I think he's going to be that big presence, that big body who's going to be great on set plays for and against, but also can be a leader on that pitch. And he's a good age at 26 years old and making his international debut. So he's one I'm looking forward to watch today.
Yeah, and we talk a lot about that back line, and John Herdman loves tall guys on that back line, right? Being able to tower over other people as well, corners, set pieces. We see that in Stephen Vittorio, obviously Scott Kennedy. These are tall guys.
Absolutely, absolutely. Zach McGraw, you need a presence as well. I'm interested to talk about going forward, though, a player in Liam Miller, who this guy can go forward, and you can see the quality that he does. And he's been in and around the team, but he needs to have that consistency. This is a big tournament for him because he's 23, still young, but obviously being signed by Liverpool and being on loan at Basel in the Swiss League, had over 50 appearances. He's still at such a young, ripe age, but he needs to break into this Canadian side so that he can be a part of 2026. I look at him when he's going forward. I want to see a match today where he's relishing the opportunity to play this game.
Yeah, Miller, obviously, we've seen him play for Canada. McGraw once again. I love the story, by the way. Played for Portland Timbers, Minnesota in town. He and Dane St. Clair share a mutual friend, and he just went, hey, Dane, do you know, like, I happen to be Canadian. My mom's Canadian, and Dane put him in contact with the right people at Canada Soccer, so now we have McGraw. What about Miller with you as well in that midfield, especially now with, no Stefan Eustáquio, no Ismail Kone? We know these guys. The torch has been passed to them, Jimmy, but we also know that it needs a little bit more depth.
Yeah, it does. I mean, look, I said at the beginning of the show, I mean, this is an opportunity for all these younger guys coming in that haven't had a cap or international experience. This is a chance for them to go showcase what they've got and that they belong here at the international level. And it's good balance that they have right now with this team, with Larea as well, who's got bags of experience, also Vittoria in the back, Boren in goal. So it's a right blend where we do have these young guys that are on the park, in the middle of the park especially. But it's going to be up to Oso as well, who throughout the game is going to have to continue to talk to Miller, talk to Bambino, and keep everybody going forward and driving. Because a lot of times too, with these young guys, when you get into the international game and you make a mistake, it's easy to get your shoulders down and the confidence starts going. So the older players are going to be relied on heavily today to make sure that confidence doesn't drop and they're allowed to go out there and express themselves and enjoy the game.
Yeah, just saw Richie Larea there. I mean, that's a veteran on this team. He's getting the start. Also, as you mentioned, getting the start. It's going to be a different role for them. Obviously, they still have to perform their duties, but to your point, you have young guys as well. So you have to make sure that they're getting the advice and the guidance that they need, because this is going to be huge, this Gold Cup for them, because we're going to be talking about the September window in just a little wee bit as we take a look at Guadeloupe starting 11, brought to you by GE. This is who Canada's going up against tonight, kickstarting their Gold Cup campaign inside BMO Field in Toronto, Ontario. You are watching Matchday Live, brought to you by CIBC. The Canadian team brought us on an epic ride as they qualified for the World Cup. With that comes higher expectations, and with that also comes pressure. Let's talk about the pressure next here on One Soccer.
This match is brought to you by CIBC, Canada Soccer's lead partner.
It looks like we're headed towards
and many people's dreams of owning a home.
What's keeping you up at night?
I'm kind of stressed about my money situation.
Oof, it's stressful to talk about.
Here's your financial stress companion.
She definitely helps.
It's never too late to start.
Good portfolio. With saving for my first down payment.
Thank you, Canada, for making dreams come true. We're with you all the way.
How do you go from the best to the ultimate without breaking the bank? You choose the big, bold, ultimate taste of ultimate chicken sausages and hot dogs. Choose ultimate taste and value, only from Maple Lodge Farms.
At Toyota, our lineup of electrified vehicles is always growing. We're evolving the ways we move so that every Canadian has a choice towards a more sustainable future. One that includes the all-new, all-electric Toyota VZ4X. Because every electrified vehicle we build at Toyota brings us all closer to a better future.
Gatorade, with electrolytes to help replenish what's lost in sweat, carbs to help fuel your working muscles, and fluids to help you hydrate. Scientifically formulated so you never stop competing.
I do this for my town, my time, my time. None of you people can tell me to stop.
Rehydrate, replenish, refuel. Gatorade.
Life's better with extra space. Space for family. Space for memories. Space for you. Try 4 weeks free. Access Storage, proud partner of Canada Soccer.
Media want to take an angle, and you've got to accept that. That's part of when a country cares now. And they want to talk about football, then you're going to get media who are going to talk this way and media that talk that way. And you accept that. For us, it will make us stronger. And again, like, we have to be very clear around our expectations. Our expectations was to win a final for the first time in 20 years. We have to say that because we're Canada, new Canada. And then we have to take the disappointment with that. You know, for people who probably didn't understand the frustration to potentially not have games in September and October, you know, that's heartbreaking. Like, our game, we've got to come together somewhere, somehow, to find solutions, because for me, I'm that passionate about my job, which is to stand on guard for the men's national team, to stand on guard for the women's national team. That's been my life for 13 years. So when I see and feel that it needs to change, I have to be vocal about that. And it's about coming together. There's no point pointing fingers. There's no point trying to assign some blame. But people have to understand the facts that if New Canada is going to be a genuine New Canada, all of this other thing has to change. We need the right preparation going into a home World Cup that we want to win. I want to be able to say to you and the fans, we want to win this World Cup at home. And there's nothing stopping us from doing that if we go all in together as a group.
Well, they always say that pressure is a privilege, and Canada has worked so hard to be in this position, KJ. What an interesting dynamic it is, because we've seen the talent, and 2-3 years ago, you're talking about Canada coming into a tournament like the Gold Cup and not having expectations to do well. They're obviously ahead of trajectory in a lot of ways, but with that, now Canada has seen, Canada being the supporters and the country itself, them perform, them deliver. You don't get to waltz into tournaments like this anymore. How much pressure is on John Herdman right now, and do you think it's fair?
I don't think a lot of pressure. I think we're just playing at it here in Canada. You want to talk about pressure, let's go to the pressure countries of Mexico and others right now to talk about what real pressure is. He's got an incredible amount of power, maybe unprecedented amount of power within his own association at the moment, which is why he feels like he can challenge them publicly. But I want to talk a little bit about the 8-year tenure. He's got an 8-year contract, right? So again, that helps, not a lot of pressure. But then we talk about the cycle of football management. International football's been around for over 100 years. In that 100 years, less than 30 managers have lasted 8 years as a national team management. Why is that? Because it's hard. It's hard, but also because it's very difficult to continue that relationship with players. Three managers right now, Didier Deschamps with France, Luke Holtz with Luxembourg, and Alvarez with Andorra are the only 3 managers who've lasted 8 years, and they all played for their national team, national heroes within their countries. I bring that up because I think we're in unprecedented territory here. And look, ultimately, whether, you know, he's talking about pressure there and criticism, it doesn't matter what I think. It doesn't matter what the fans really think, I don't think, at this moment. Ultimately, he will be judged by the players that he's coaching. And we're in this cycle now where he had the honeymoon period, then he had the gathering period and the momentum and bring them together in the brotherhood. And we're through that period now where players here and who are not here need to be challenged and coached, that's his job, to get the best out of them. And I think ultimately that's where he needs to be judged. Not worry about what things like I have to say, but that's what the players need to be thinking about. You know, is he the best for us to take us forward? Tonight's another example of that.
Well, and make no mistake either, KJ, that he's a proud man. He's a very proud man, and the pressure comes internally as well. The players feel the pressure. They want success from their coach, and John Herdman, of course, wants success for this program as well. It is all about, though, how they navigate it, especially with this big tournament that is set to begin. Andy, it's like the pressure I feel like when I work with you and KJ. Always there.
Hey, you know what? You also make diamonds from pressure, so just relish in all of that absolute glory that comes with pressure. I'm going to put these guys on the hot seat, too, and put some pressure on them to answer some questions. There's no denying what John Herdman has done for this men's program. He's really elevated the game of soccer in this country for the men, qualifying for the World Cup, making the final in Nations League as well, playing for a trophy for the first time in 23 years. But Jimmy, we also know that they didn't hit their targets either. So how do we wrap our heads around everything here? How do we evaluate this team right now?
Well, that's it. I mean, it's performance-based football. And when you have your targets and you have your goals that you want to achieve, and if you don't achieve the goals, then you've failed at what you wanted to do. But listen, being a manager is not an easy job. It's very, very difficult. You're hired to get fired. You hold on for as long as you can as a football manager. And you're going to go through the highs, you're going to go through the lows, and you yourself are a reflection of your team. You have to get the best out of your players, and you have to figure out exactly, how do I get the best out of these guys? Do I need to dip his boots in a pair of chocolate? Do I need to give you a hug? Do I have to give the other one a little kick in the backside? And that's how you have to understand the players, and how are you going to get the best out of them to go achieve the goals that we want. So yeah, there's always going to be pressure on John right now as a manager, just like every other manager in world football. Does he have the right tools and the right players to get where he wants to go? I think so within time. But look, like KJ said there, right, you're going to be under a microscope as a manager, but you know, hopefully he gets things going well. And of course, we want to win as a nation. We want trophies, and we've got a squad and players that are good enough to get that.
Yeah, no hugs, but I'll take the dipped chocolate boots.
I looked under. I was searching for the chocolate, to be honest.
What a team!
It's psychology now.
Where is it?
Right? That's the thing too with coaching. It's not about X's and O's now. It's a psychology as well. You've got to understand the individual.
You're a manager because you're managing. You're managing personalities in many ways too.
And man management is the biggest part of that. That's how I always respected coaches, how they can tailor how they treat certain players and get the best out of the group. But look, there's a hamster wheel in football, right? I remember quickly, I'm not going to go down memory lane, but I got promoted with my team on a Saturday in Denmark. On Monday, they're questioning if he's the guy to take us through First Division. That's just the name of the game. Is this as far as you could take a team? Could you take them further? You're always going to look at it. The hamster wheel in football is you're always going to be chasing. As a player, can I get to the next level? Can I bring this team to a championship? Can I move to a bigger league? The same as a coach. Can you get the most out of this group? I think this is a great moment that John Herdman is feeling pressure, because this is a fantastic group. Canadians are tuning into this group and tuning into football and saying, we want something. Now, the World Cup, that is obviously the biggest pinnacle. That is the top echelon of what you want to reach. But playing and getting better and having a team and a country behind you, this is the next step.
I want to quickly touch on this because he brought it up, and we know that this is something I think that took us all a little bit by surprise, is the possibility of not playing games in that FIFA window in September. So how much pressure does that put on this tournament and what Herdman can get out of these players here at the Gold Cup?
It's vital, crucial, because now he has to manage the players that he already knows, then these new players. Training now becomes important because it's not, hey, we can rest and prepare for the next game. Every single moment, every detail that he has with these players is crucial.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, you need games. And the more games that you can get the players playing together, the more successful and more chance of you have of being successful. So these games are vital, and they have to make sure that they get games for this team.
All right, great stuff in studio, Jimmy. We look forward to hearing your call because it's Canada taking on Guadeloupe next year to get their Gold Cup started. This game being played in Toronto. 2 more group stage matches, as you can see. We'll be here on Canada Day, everyone. You're going to join us on Canada Day against Guatemala. Yeah, that's right. And then they take on Cuba July 4th. That is July 4th, America's birthday. We're just celebrating birthdays here when Canada plays. Hopefully, we're also celebrating victories because, yes, these games clearly have a little bit more focus on them. Pressure, that seems to be the word of the pregame show here. If we're still keeping our fingers crossed, it's not the case, but if they don't play games in September, every single 90 minutes matter. You're watching Matchday Live here, presented by CIBC. We're getting you ready for kickoff here on One Soccer. Canada men's national team on One Soccer is brought to you by the Toyota Corolla family.
At Toyota, our lineup of electrified vehicles is always growing. We're evolving the ways we move so that every Canadian has a choice towards a more sustainable future. One that includes the all-new, all-electric Toyota VZ4X. Because every electrified vehicle we build at Toyota brings us all closer to a better future.
Degree 72-hour non-stop protection. Antiperspirant with motion sense. Tested to the limit. Degree keeps working when others stop.
Think you've seen tough? You've seen nothing. When you're absolutely drenched and still take the final shot? Not even a challenge. Playing extra time under the beating hot sun. Hardly sweating. When the wind's so chilling it cuts to the bone? Now we're getting somewhere. Playing in Canada's tough. We're not sorry about it. Want to beat us? Come on. We're made for this.
Thank you, Canada, for making dreams come true. We're with you all the way.
Allstate and its 900 agents proudly support Canadian soccer at every level. Visit allstate.ca.
It's Matchday Live here on One Soccer, presented by CIBC. The weather is cooperating in Toronto, Ontario, inside BMO Field. It's been raining for most of the day, but as you can see now, fans having to shield their eyes from the sun. They're getting ready for the Canadian men's national team to take to the pitch and begin their Gold Cup campaign. They're taking on Guadeloupe. It's a big turnaround, fast turnaround, I should say, from Concacaf Nations League, the Final Four. The Canadians losing 2-0 to the Americans, playing for a trophy for the first time in 23 years. But now they have to adjust, Jordo. They have to change things around in their minds because they know there's a chance still to win a trophy. We are seeing new faces here, and at the risk of sounding cliche, how crucial is the start to the game?
Absolutely, the most vital thing is come out guns blazing. Because for the players that played the Nations League finals in Vegas against the United States, they didn't do that. And then it was an uphill battle that they never really got over. But look, the beauty about football is a game has gone, it's past, it's done. You cannot repeat it. Go out tonight and show the world, show CONCACAF what you guys are made of. With your tackles, with your energy, the way that you wear the badge, just go out and show what you can do.
We're seeing a mixture here of veterans, and we're also seeing some new faces. We've touched on Ali Ahmed getting the start. How about Bombito? You think maybe he's starting in a different position here that Herdman wants to see him in. Are you curious to see how he'll do?
Yeah, I'm very curious. I'm looking at the lineup. If they're playing three in the back, I think that means Bombito is playing a defensive midfield. He's playing as a 6. That's just me speculating. But look, if you do that in a foreign position, a position that you don't normally play, gotta start well and get your legs under you, whether it be a tackle, simple passes. You're looking at Osorio in the midfield tonight to just lead the charge with energy, with his leadership, and also vocally showing that he wants to be there and be a presence, because all these games are gearing for 2026 when we host the World Cup.
And I think that's why we all have that one eye on 2026. Obviously, you want to win in the here and now. You want the narrative of a trophy to be over. I'm sure John Herdman, the players, want to say, Andy, you say going for a trophy for the first time in 23 years, one more time. Like, it's going to turn into a drinking game here, Jordo. But, you know, you obviously want to get rid of that narrative. But at the same time, you have young players that you have to see what you have depth-wise.
Absolutely. And I think the balance is key in terms of the vets that you play. But when you play a younger player, their first-time cap, don't just throw so many on and expect everything to be cohesive. Finding that balance. And that's why I think Herdman, that's where the pressure lies, is how he can get the most out of this window and out of this Gold Cup.
Let's head inside BMO Field. Let's get ready for Anthems, and let's get ready for the kickoff right here on One Soccer. See you at halftime, Canada.
Please rise if you're able for the playing of the national anthem of Guadeloupe.
There's no place like home. Canada back at BMO Field, Toronto, Ontario, the Canadian fortress, a place they haven't lost since 2010. And tonight, Canada kicks off their 2023 Gold Cup campaign against Guadeloupe in Group D.